Do you know what it feels like to realize everything you depend on is slipping through your fingers? Lily Carter clutched the phone, her knuckles white, the twins behind her trembling and whispering questions she could not answer. Rain streaked the windows of the old mansion, casting eerie shadows across the polished floors, and the wind rattled the doors like it wanted in. Every second stretched, every heartbeat felt like a drumbeat of panic as she glanced toward the darkened hallways, unsure of where to move first. Her mind raced, images of the twins falling, getting lost, or worse flashed in an unstoppable loop. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her voice, but when she finally whispered into the receiver, the words sounded tiny and fragile. "Please come home now." On the other end, Jackson Steele, in his sleek downtown apartment, froze mid-step, the sound of her voice breaking through his focused calm like a crack in a dam. His eyes narrowed, muscles tensing, and for a moment the world around him disappeared. Something urgent, something raw, clawed at him, and he did not hesitate. He grabbed his keys, his mind already running through the routes, the obstacles, the fastest way to get to her. Outside, the rain intensified, slick streets reflecting neon lights, and every car and pedestrian became part of a gauntlet he had to navigate. Back in the mansion, Lily moved quickly but cautiously, dragging the twins by the hand, weaving through rooms she knew well but never under this pressure. Every creak of the floor, every shadow made her pulse spike. The twins looked up at her, eyes wide, fear mirrored in their small faces, and she whispered reassurances she barely felt herself. A clock ticked somewhere overhead, sounding impossibly loud in the tense silence between rain, wind, and her shallow breaths. Then a sudden noise, a door closing somewhere in the mansion, made her freeze. Heart hammering, she crouched, holding the twins close, listening. Her mind screamed at her to run, to hide, to call louder, but the phone line remained her lifeline. Each second dragged, and yet she knew she had to keep moving. She peeked around a corner and caught a glimpse of movement, her breath catching in her throat. The twins clung tighter, and Lily felt a surge of determination. She could not falter. Not now. Not when she had come this far. And then, a distant sound of a car engine, low and insistent, reached her ears, almost too faint to notice over the storm, but it made something stir inside her, hope, fear, a combination she could not name. She glanced toward the front of the mansion, mind racing with possibilities, heart beating faster than ever, and realized this was only the beginning of what would become a night she would never forget. Jackson Steele maneuvered through the slick streets, tires gripping wet asphalt as the storm lashed against the windshield, his mind laser-focused on the voice that had shattered his calm. Each turn, each light, each shadow seemed amplified in urgency. The city blurred past him, neon reflections dancing across rain puddles, and yet every instinct screamed to move faster, to reach the mansion before it was too late. Inside, Lily Carter led the twins through a labyrinth of hallways and forgotten passages, her breath coming in sharp, controlled bursts, trying to mask the panic she could not hide. The twins clung to her, small hands gripping her sides, eyes wide, whispering questions she did not have answers for. A sudden creak echoed from above, freezing her in place. Every nerve screamed at her, yet she forced herself forward, listening, calculating, moving with precision born of sheer necessity. Outside, Jackson spotted an alley shortcut, his jaw tightening as he swerved to avoid a delivery truck, his pulse sinking with the storm pounding against the city. Back in the mansion, Lily paused at a staircase, the twins peering around her protectively, fear mingling with trust in the briefest glances. Her heart hammered as she heard the faint sound of approaching tires, a hint that help was near, but time was slipping away faster than she could comprehend. Jackson's car came to a screeching halt at the mansion's gate, rain soaking through the leather of his gloves, eyes scanning for any sign of movement. The twins whimpered softly, Lily's hand resting on their shoulders as she tried to steady them and herself, every muscle taut with anticipation. Then a shadow moved past the window, quick and deliberate, and Lily's stomach lurched. She had not expected the mansion to be empty at this hour, yet now it felt full with unseen presences. Jackson's voice rang out through the storm, authoritative yet filled with tension, calling their names, his steps hitting the wet ground. with a purpose that made Lily's heart leap. She ducked down low, then up, signaling the twins to follow her lead, weaving through corridors with silent urgency. The rain intensified, drumming on the roof and windows, masking the sounds of their movement, and yet every small noise, every heartbeat, seemed magnified in the charged atmosphere. Jackson reached the front door, hands steady despite the racing of his pulse, and in that instant, the twins' eyes met his, recognition sparking a flicker of hope amidst the uncertainty. Lily exhaled slowly, almost imperceptibly, realizing that their journey through fear was far from over, and as Jackson stepped closer, ready to guide them, a sudden, unexpected sound echoed from the back of the mansion, pulling every nerve taut and leaving a chilling question hanging in the air, wondering what awaited them beyond the next corner. Jackson Steele pushed open the front door, water from the storm dripping from his coat, and stepped inside, eyes scanning the dimly lit mansion with a calculated intensity. Lily Carter held the twins close, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing on her chest, every nerve alert, every instinct screaming that one wrong step could change everything. The twins whispered softly, sensing the tension in the room, and Lily tightened her grip on their hands, forcing a calm she did not feel. Jackson's gaze met hers, a mixture of concern, authority, and unspoken questions, and for a moment the storm outside seemed to fade, leaving only the electricity of their connection. "Are they safe?" His voice was steady, but the underlying urgency made Lily's heart race. She nodded, though doubt and fear clawed at her, and in that silent exchange, a bridge formed between them, fragile yet undeniable. Every shadow in the mansion seemed alive, every echo of the storm outside amplified the stakes, and Lily realized how much was riding on this reunion. Jackson moved closer, not touching, but his presence alone sent a jolt of reassurance through her. They began navigating the mansion together, the twins between them, and every corner revealed new obstacles, fallen furniture, wet floors, and unfamiliar noises that made hearts pound. Jackson's calculated direction and Lily's intimate knowledge of the house created a tense choreography, each step measured, each glance loaded with unspoken emotion. As they approached a large window overlooking the back garden, Jackson paused, his eyes narrowing, sensing something beyond the obvious. Lily's breath caught, and she instinctively pulled the twins closer, feeling the full weight of vulnerability pressing down on them. "We are not alone," Jackson said softly, his tone carrying the weight of authority and concern, making Lily shiver despite the warmth of his presence. The twins looked up, trusting him in a way that stirred a deep protective instinct inside Jackson, and he realized the consequences of even the smallest mistake could be devastating. Each movement became deliberate, their silent coordination building a rhythm that kept them alert, hearts beating in tandem, fear and trust intertwined. Lily's voice broke the tense silence as she whispered a plan, her words sharp and precise, revealing courage she had not known she possessed. Jackson listened, evaluating, nodding slightly, and for the first time, Lily saw the man behind the legend, someone capable of empathy, strategy, and a rare vulnerability. They reached the back corridor, and a subtle sound, a floorboard shifting, faint but distinct, made them freeze, the twins clinging tightly. Jackson motioned for silence, every muscle coiled, every sense heightened, and Lily's pulse thudded with anticipation. Just as they were about to move forward, a glint from the garden caught Jackson's eye, revealing a small, unexpected figure watching them, eyes wide, and the realization hit both of them that the night held secrets far beyond what they had prepared for, a revelation that could change everything. Jackson Steele crouched behind the wide windowsill, rain dripping from the eaves, eyes locked on the shadowed figure in the garden, every muscle coiled with tension. Lily Carter pressed the twins closer, feeling their small bodies tremble against hers, and her own heartbeat thundered in her ears. The mansion suddenly felt smaller, every hallway a potential trap, every echo magnified by fear. Jackson's voice was low but firm. "Stay close, do not move." And Lily nodded, understanding that they were on the edge of a decision that could change everything. The figure in the garden shifted, revealing a flash of familiar clothing, and Lily's mind raced, trying to interpret the sign, the warning, or the threat. Jackson's eyes narrowed, calculating, sensing that whatever was coming, they would have only moments to react. He took a cautious step forward, signaling Lily to follow, and she felt a surge of both fear and trust, realizing the weight of relying on him entirely. The twins whispered softly, and Lily's throat tightened as she reminded herself to stay composed, to lead them safely, even when uncertainty clawed at her confidence. Outside, the storm intensified, rain hammering against the roof, wind rattling windows, turning the mansion into a cage and a shield at the same time. Jackson and Lily moved as one, silent communication passing between them in glances and gestures, tension building with each heartbeat. Every shadow seemed to hold a question, every flicker of movement a challenge to their plan. Jackson reached a door leading to the garden terrace, paused, and looked back at Lily, the weight of his presence pressing heavily on her. "We have to make a choice now," he said quietly, the storm around them amplifying the gravity of his words, and Lily felt the responsibility settle like stone in her chest. She had a choice: lead the twins forward into the unknown with Jackson, trusting him completely, or retreat into the relative safety of the mansion's interior, leaving the figure's intentions unresolved. The twins looked up at her, their wide eyes reflecting trust and fear, and Lily's mind raced with the consequences of hesitation. Jackson extended a hand, calm yet commanding, and Lily saw in his gaze the unwavering certainty that he would face whatever came next with them. Hard hammering, Lily took a deep breath, gathering every ounce of courage, and reached for his hand, guiding the twins along with her. The garden terrace loomed ahead, drenched in shadow, the unknown waiting silently, and as they stepped onto the slick stone, a sudden metallic glint caught Jackson's attention, forcing him to halt abruptly. Lily froze, twins clinging, and in that moment, the tension between choice and danger, trust and caution, authority and vulnerability, hung in the air, leaving them teetering on the edge of a pivotal decision that could alter everything. Jackson Steele's eyes scanned the terrace, taking in the slick surface, the shadows of the storm, and the figure partially hidden behind the ornamental fountain, and for the first time, he felt the weight of uncertainty press down on him. Lily Carter clutched the twins to her chest, their small hands gripping her tightly, and she felt a surge of protective instinct she had never known before. The wind howled around them, rattling the railings, and every flicker of movement in the shadows made hearts pound with anticipation. Jackson took a careful step forward, his presence commanding yet cautious, and Lily followed, guided by a mixture of fear, trust, and the unspoken connection that had formed between them since the first call. The twins' eyes followed every motion, wide and bright, silently measuring the tension between the adults and sensing the change in atmosphere. A sudden glint on the fountain reflected the lightning, catching Jackson's attention, and he froze, analyzing the significance, the potential danger, and the choice it demanded. Lily leaned closer, whispering instructions to the twins, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her, and Jackson realized how much responsibility she had carried alone until now. In that moment, the balance between them shifted. Authority was no longer a singular force, but a shared weight of protection and decision-making. Jackson's gaze softened, acknowledging her courage, and Lily felt a strange mix of relief and empowerment, realizing she was not just a passive participant but an essential partner in navigating the storm. The wind gusted sharply, rattling the leaves and sending a chill across the terrace, and the figure behind the fountain took a deliberate step forward, revealing a familiar silhouette that made both Jackson and Lily hesitate, eyes locking in silent calculation. The twins shifted nervously, sensing the tension building like a coiled spring ready to snap, and Lily instinctively placed herself slightly ahead, signaling a subtle shift in leadership born of necessity. Jackson nodded, understanding the unspoken assertion, and a new dynamic emerged, one where trust and reliance intertwined more deeply than ever before. Every heartbeat, every breath, carried the weight of unspoken questions and newfound bonds, and as the storm raged around them, both adults realized that the night would demand choices that could alter not only their safety but the fabric of their connection. The figure stopped, the faint sound of movement echoing across the terrace, and Jackson and Lily exchanged a glance, silent yet full of meaning, knowing that the next step would define who led, who protected, and who had to trust in a way they never had before, leaving the twins staring in awe and uncertainty as the night prepared to reveal its next unexpected turn. Jackson Steele's grip on the twins tightened instinctively as the figure stepped fully into the terrace light, revealing features both familiar and startling, and the sudden clarity sent a shiver down Lily Carter's spine. The wind howled, carrying the scent of rain and tension, while shadows stretched across the stone floor, making every step feel like a calculated gamble. Lily's mind raced, replaying every decision, every choice that had brought them to this precarious edge, and she felt the pressure of responsibility heavier than ever before. Jackson moved closer, his presence shielding them yet demanding attention, and the twins nestled against him, sensing the unspoken authority and the shift in power dynamics between the adults. The figure's gaze flicked between Jackson and Lily, calculating, deliberate, and Lily realized that their previous decisions had consequences she could not have anticipated, consequences that now hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to break. Every heartbeat echoed in her chest as Jackson's voice broke the silence, low, commanding, and filled with tension. "We cannot step back now." Lily nodded, feeling the weight of trust, fear, and urgency intertwining, and she drew a shaky breath to steady herself as they advanced cautiously toward the edge of the terrace. The rain soaked their coats, the twins clung tighter, and every creak of the wet stone made her pulse spike. Jackson's eyes darted to every potential escape, every angle, calculating, but even his precision could not eliminate the uncertainty pressing down from every direction. A sudden movement from the figure caused the twins to gasp, and Lily instinctively placed herself slightly ahead, signaling protective instinct and shared responsibility. The dynamic between her and Jackson had shifted again. No longer was it just about guidance or command, but about mutual reliance and the unspoken negotiation of trust under pressure. Each step forward seemed to demand courage beyond what they had known, and Lily felt herself teetering on the edge of fear and resolve, the twins' anxious whispers punctuating the charged silence. Lightning flashed, illuminating the terrace, revealing the figure's subtle but deliberate gestures, and in that instant, the stakes of every prior choice crystallized into a sharp, undeniable reality. Jackson exhaled slowly, his jaw tight, assessing the situation with heightened intensity, while Lily's hands tightened around the twins, her knuckles white, and a surge of resolve mixed with panic coursed through her. The figure moved again, this time closer, revealing a small, unexpected object in hand, something that changed the context of their night entirely, and Jackson froze, Lily's breath catching, as they both realized that the next decision would define not only their safety but the fragile web of trust and control that had been building between them, leaving them on the precipice of an unforeseen crisis that demanded immediate action. Jackson Steele stepped closer to the figure on the terrace, rain plastering his dark hair to his forehead, eyes sharp, calculating, every muscle taut with tension, and Lily Carter moved instinctively to shield the twins, her breath quick, heart hammering against her chest as the weight of the night pressed down on them. The figure held something small and metallic, catching the intermittent flashes of lightning, and for the first time, Jackson felt a flicker of uncertainty ripple through him, the calculated control he relied on momentarily shaken. Lily's voice was steady but urgent. "Jackson, we cannot wait!" And her gaze locked on his, a mixture of fear and determination that cut through the storm around them. The twins whispered softly, sensing the heightened tension, and Jackson's jaw tightened as he assessed the consequences of any choice, knowing that one misstep could shift the balance irreversibly. Rain pounded the terrace, wind whipping around them, and every sound, the creak of wet stone, the distant thunder, the twins' soft murmurs, amplified the stakes, each second a pulse of risk and urgency. Jackson's hand hovered near the object in the figure's grip, mind racing through possibilities, while Lily shifted slightly forward, signaling readiness to act, their silent coordination born of shared necessity. Then, without warning, the figure moved with deliberate speed, forcing Jackson to make a split-second decision, confront immediately and risk escalation, or attempt negotiation under the storm's unpredictable cover. Lily caught his eye, and in that glance, a silent conversation passed, a recognition of trust and shared responsibility, and she realized the full depth of what it meant to rely on someone completely in the face of unknown consequences. Jackson inhaled sharply, weighing authority against empathy, protection against impulse, and decided, taking a bold step that would commit them both to an irreversible path. The figure froze momentarily, then shifted, revealing a flash of recognition in their expression that neither Jackson nor Lily had anticipated, and for a heartbeat, time seemed to suspend. The twins clung closer, sensing the emotional spike, their small faces reflecting both awe and anxiety. Lightning struck the terrace railings, illuminating the scene with stark clarity, and in that split second, Jackson realized that the choice he had made would not only determine their immediate safety but reshape the fragile balance of trust, power, and connection that had been forming all night. Lily's hand rested lightly on his arm, a gesture of support, yet the air between them bristled with the tension of the unknown. As the figure finally spoke, the words cut through the storm, carrying implications neither of them had prepared for, leaving hearts racing and breaths caught, and the night poised on the edge of an explosive revelation that promised to change everything in the moments to come. The figure's words hung in the air, heavy and unexpected, and for a moment the storm outside seemed to quiet, leaving only the charged silence between Jackson Steele and Lily Carter. The twins clung to Lily, sensing the tension, their small faces pressed against her coat, and she felt the weight of responsibility settle more firmly on her shoulders. Jackson's gaze remained locked on the figure, muscles tensed, mind racing, yet a new layer of realization began to unfold. Choices made in the past had led them to this irreversible moment, and there was no turning back. Lily swallowed hard, heart pounding, as she processed the implications, the subtle shift in power, and the raw vulnerability that now defined their fragile connection. Rain dripped from the terrace above, the rhythmic patter a stark contrast to the storm raging within her chest. She glanced at Jackson, noticing the rare softness in his eyes, tempered by determination, and understood that trust, once implicit, now carried a weight heavier than either of them had anticipated. The figure stepped slightly closer, the faint glint of an object in their hand drawing a sharp exhale from both adults, a reminder that the night's stakes had escalated in ways either could fully predict. Lily took a careful step forward, instinct and courage intertwining, and Jackson mirrored her motion, a silent affirmation that they would navigate this together, even as the ground beneath their certainty shifted. The twins whispered questions, soft and fearful, and Lily felt her resolve harden, knowing that she could not falter for their sake, nor for her own. Jackson's hand hovered near hers, a subtle connection that spoke volumes about shared purpose and emerging reliance, a bond forged in the crucible of fear and choice. Then, a sudden movement in the corner of the terrace caught Jackson's eye, a shadow that did not belong, triggering a surge of adrenaline and focus. Lily stiffened, twins holding tightly, and the storm seemed to respond, wind whipping more violently, rain blurring the edges of vision. The figure's expression shifted, revealing a flicker of hesitation, a momentary crack in the calm they had presented, and both Jackson and Lily sensed the fleeting opportunity within that pause. Each breath was measured, each heartbeat magnified, as the consequences of every previous decision coalesced into a moment of profound clarity and irreversible change. Lily's eyes met Jackson's, an unspoken understanding passing between them, and for a fleeting instant, time itself seemed suspended, heavy with anticipation. Then, without warning, the figure spoke again, words laced with implication and uncertainty, leaving both Jackson and Lily frozen, the twins clinging, as an unanticipated truth hung tantalizingly in the space between revelation and realization, and the night waited, holding its breath alongside them, for what would come next. Jackson Steele froze as the figure stepped fully into the terrace light, and in that instant, the truth hit him with staggering force. The small object in their hand was a key, one that could unlock more than just doors, but secrets he had spent years guarding. Lily Carter's eyes widened, a mix of shock and realization crossing her face, and the twins instinctively pressed closer, sensing the sudden shift in the atmosphere. The storm seemed to intensify, wind gusting sharply, rain slashing across the terrace, mirroring the upheaval in Jackson's mind. Every calculation he had made, every plan for control, now felt precarious, and he realized that authority alone would not navigate this revelation. Lily's voice broke the tense silence, steady yet charged with new courage. "Jackson, this changes everything. and the weight of her words resonated, shaking the foundations of their understanding. The figure turned the key slowly, deliberately, a smirk tugging at the edge of their expression, and Jackson felt an unfamiliar vulnerability surge through him, the kind that comes when the ground shifts beneath your feet and the rules you trusted are no longer certain. Lily's hand brushed against his arm, tentative, yet her touch conveyed solidarity and a shared resolve, reinforcing a bond that had been tested all night and now faced an even more profound trial. The twins looked between the adults, sensing the importance of the moment, their small faces etched with curiosity and apprehension. Jackson's mind raced, weighing options, consequences, and the new reality imposed by this simple, unexpected action, while Lily's presence reminded him that some decisions required more than instinct. They demanded trust and cooperation. The rain pelted harder, drumming on the stone terrace, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed to narrow to the three of them and the figure holding the key, a delicate pivot point upon which the entire night's stakes now balanced. Jackson took a slow breath, measuring his response, but before he could speak, the figure revealed a folded envelope tucked beneath the key, the seal marked with a symbol only Jackson recognized, and the implications struck like lightning. Decisions made in secrecy, alliances shifted, truths concealed, all converging into a revelation that could unravel everything he had controlled. Lily's grip on the twins tightened, and she glanced at Jackson, eyes wide, heart pounding, understanding that the night had transformed from a simple rescue into a labyrinth of secrets and shifting power. The envelope trembled slightly in the figure's hand, the key dangling as if to emphasize its significance, and Jackson's pulse raced as he realized that the next move would determine not only their safety but the foundation of trust, authority, and connection between them, leaving them poised on the edge of a startling twist that would redefine the night entirely. Jackson Steele's pulse raced as he stared at the envelope in the figure's hand, the storm around them roaring like a living thing, rain slicing through the night with relentless force, and every instinct screamed that time was collapsing into a single, decisive moment. Lily Carter clutched the twins tightly, their small bodies trembling, and she felt the full weight of responsibility pressing down on her, knowing that every choice in the next few seconds could change everything irreversibly. Jackson stepped forward, shielding the family with a presence that was equal parts authority and vulnerability, and his mind raced through scenarios, each more perilous than the last. The figure's eyes held a mixture of challenge and revelation, and Jackson could feel the tension coiling tighter, threatening to snap. Lily whispered a quiet plan, tentative yet resolute, and Jackson absorbed every word, weighing instinct against reason, power against trust, as the storm hammered down, masking the world beyond the terrace. The twins' small voices rose in a frightened murmur, and Lily pressed herself closer to them, heart thrumming, every nerve alive to the uncertainty before them. Jackson's gaze shifted between the figure and Lily, and in that instant, he realized that sacrifice and choice were inseparable, that leadership meant risking everything for those who depended on him, even when the path forward was unclear. Lightning illuminated the terrace, casting sharp shadows, and the envelope glimmered like a key to a future none of them could yet imagine. Each heartbeat was a drum of urgency, each breath a tether between fear and determination, and the twins' eyes met Jackson's, silent understanding passing in a fragile, powerful moment. Lily felt a surge of courage, a readiness to act alongside him, knowing that their collaboration, their trust, had become the lifeline for all three of them. The figure shifted again, subtly, an unreadable expression revealing the hidden stakes, and Jackson's jaw tightened as he felt the finality of the night pressing in. Choices made, paths converging, and consequences multiplying, the moment demanded decisive action that would seal their fates. Rain lashed harder, wind shrieked through the terrace, and the twins clung to Lily, hearts pounding, while Jackson raised his hand, poised between confrontation and trust, knowing that the next instant could redefine everything they had endured, leaving the ultimate decision suspended, a precipice before the final, irreversible act. The envelope fell open in the figure's hand, revealing papers that shimmered under the stormlight, and Jackson Steele felt the gravity of revelation settle over him like a physical weight. Lily Carter stepped forward, holding the twins close, heart pounding, and for the first time in hours, the tension that had gripped every breath seemed to shift toward clarity. Jackson scanned the documents, recognizing truths long buried, secrets that reshaped his understanding of the past and of the choices that had brought them to this night. The twins clung tighter to Lily, sensing the profound change in the air, and she looked up at Jackson, eyes reflecting fear, relief, and awe simultaneously. Every storm gust, every raindrop, seemed to echo the tumult of emotions swirling between them, and Jackson took a slow breath, letting the moment sink in before speaking, his voice measured but charged with an intensity that resonated through the terrace. "It is done," he said, and Lily's shoulders relaxed slightly, though the weight of responsibility remained, shared now with him in a way that had never existed before. The figure nodded, silent acknowledgement. Passing, and stepped back, leaving the three of them on the terrace, the rain still falling but the storm inside beginning to ebb. Lily's hands trembled slightly as she straightened, meeting Jackson's gaze, and in that look, a bridge of trust, understanding, and shared courage was cemented, forged through fear, uncertainty, and the relentless pressure of impossible choices. Jackson reached for the twins, their small hands gripping his with absolute faith, and Lily felt a wave of gratitude and quiet triumph, knowing that though the night had tested them all beyond measure, they had emerged connected and resolute. The storm began to ease, rain softening to a gentle patter, and the lights of the city reflected off the wet terrace in a calm shimmer that belied the intensity of the hours just past. Jackson exhaled slowly, his eyes tracing the contours of the mansion and the twins, the realization of protection and responsibility settling fully into his core. Lily released a long breath, finally allowing herself to absorb the significance of what had occurred, understanding that courage, trust, and connection had been both tested and revealed in ways that could never be undone. The twins laughed softly, breaking the tension with innocence, and Jackson and Lily exchanged a fleeting smile, a shared acknowledgement that they had survived not just the storm outside, but the storm within themselves. As the night sky began to clear, leaving a glimmer of stars above, Jackson placed a steadying hand on Lily's shoulder, the moral of the night crystallizing silently between them, that the strongest bonds are forged not in comfort, but in the crucible of fear, trust, and unwavering commitment. The storm had passed, leaving the terrace glistening with rain and the first pale light of dawn creeping over the horizon, and Jackson Steele stood silently, the twins clinging to him with a trust that spoke louder than any words. Lily Carter adjusted their coats, brushing wet strands of hair from their faces, and she felt the lingering tremor of the night, a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and an unspoken recognition of how far they had all been tested. Jackson's gaze swept over the mansion, the terrace, and the distant city skyline, taking in the quiet aftermath of chaos, and he realized that the decisions made, the risks taken, and the trust forged in the tempest had irreversibly reshaped who they were and what they meant to each other. Lily caught his eye, a faint smile tugging at her lips, and in that glance, a dialogue of understanding passed, acknowledging both the fragility and the strength that had emerged from shared fear and decisive action. The twins laughed softly, chasing each other along the terrace, their innocence a stark contrast to the tension that had dominated the hours before, and Jackson and Lily shared a fleeting, quiet moment of relief, letting the subtle shift in their relationship settle into permanence. Rainwater still dripped from the eaves, catching the early sunlight, and the terrace shimmered with reflections that mirrored the new clarity in Jackson's mind. Protection was no longer a solitary endeavor, trust could be mutual, and courage was measured not by fearlessness alone, but by the willingness to act despite it. Lily's hand rested lightly on his arm, and he felt the warmth of connection and shared responsibility, a bond strengthened by adversity and tempered in the crucible of uncertainty. As the twins ran toward the edge of the terrace, Jackson called out softly, guiding them, and Lily's laughter mingled with the morning breeze, carrying a sense of renewed hope and quiet triumph. Every heartbeat, every breath, was now infused with a lingering awareness of what had been risked, what had been revealed, and the undeniable truth that their lives had shifted irreversibly. Jackson inhaled deeply, letting the weight of the night's choices settle, while Lily turned to him with an expression that mixed relief and curiosity, as if silently asking what paths lay ahead. The figure who had delivered the key and the envelope remained in the shadows, a subtle reminder that secrets still lingered, that not every truth had been uncovered, and that the dawn of clarity also carried whispers of mysteries yet to be explored. Jackson's eyes followed the light creeping across the terrace, the city stretching beyond, and he understood that the events of the night would echo, shaping decisions, trust, and the fragile equilibrium of their connection. Lily smiled faintly at the twins, who chattered happily, and he felt the resonance of shared experience, the cost of survival, and the profound shift from fear to mutual reliance. The morning was calm, yet the envelope lay quietly beside them, the glint of its seal catching the light, hinting that while one chapter had closed, another, filled with questions and possibilities, awaited their courage and attention. The morning sun had fully risen, casting a warm glow across the terrace and washing the mansion in soft light, and Jackson Steele stood with the twins at his side, the weight of the night's trials slowly settling into a quiet, profound relief. Lily Carter adjusted her coat, brushing the damp strands of hair from the children's faces, and she felt a deep, steady calm that had eluded her for hours, the kind that comes only after surviving a storm together. Jackson's eyes scanned the terrace and the city beyond, absorbing the clarity that followed chaos, and he realized that trust, courage, and collaboration had reshaped not only their immediate circumstances but the very fabric of their connection. The twins laughed softly, running along the terrace, their innocence a bright counterpoint to the night's intensity, and Lily smiled, feeling a sense of triumph and completion that resonated deep within her. Jackson reached for the envelope that had carried the key and the truths of the night, now gently folded and secure, a symbol of understanding and closure, and he tucked it carefully into his coat, knowing that while some secrets remained, the most urgent challenges had been met and resolved. Lily stepped closer to him, eyes meeting his with gratitude and recognition, and for the first time, they could share the weight of authority and protection equally, their relationship fortified through shared experience and decisive action. The storm clouds that had dominated the sky were gone, replaced by a calm breeze that carried the scent of wet stone and fresh beginnings, and every breath they took seemed lighter, freer, tempered by the understanding that courage and trust could endure even the most harrowing circumstances. Jackson knelt slightly to speak to the twins, their small hands grasping his firmly, eyes bright with trust and curiosity, and Lily watched, heart full, as the bond between them and him became unmistakably clear. They stepped back together, the terrace stretching ahead, open and bright, each movement measured yet natural, embodying the harmony and resilience born from the night's trials. Jackson's gaze met Lily's one last time before they turned toward the mansion, a silent agreement passing, a testament to the unspoken promises and shared responsibility that had formed in the crucible of fear, hope, and courage. As the first rays of sunlight glinted off the distant city skyline, the three of them, bound by trust and experience, moved forward, their shadows stretching long and steady, carrying the weight of lessons learned and the assurance that together they could face whatever came next. And in that quiet, golden morning, Jackson reflected that true strength was not in control alone, nor in solitude, but in the willingness to trust, to protect, and to rise with those who relied on you, leaving an enduring echo. The greatest power lies in the courage to connect and to care.